Hey guys, back again. Another small little tip and trick, kind of a DIY project. Uh, what we got here is the famous, Hawks Helium mini stick. A lot of people hate these. A lot of people, talk bad about these, but sometimes this is just the best people can do in their budget. So I picked these up to have an extra set for people to go film for us, or maybe the wife wants to go and I'll build a ladder a little bit higher up so I can film or whatnot. But as you see, they come in this nice gray bare metal. I put them together, I've used them, they work just fine. Not too heavy, not too light. The design itself overall is pretty good, and I'm sure there's a few things that could be improved, but isn't there always? But what I did do is I took off the cups where these actually attach together, because I'm not really a fan of those. They make a couple different things, like a little system hauler, like 3D printed versions of them. Or I like to just use like a night eyes tie. It's just rubber, takes 2 seconds. I just grab it, bundle it up, put them together. They don't move, it works fine. But anyway, let's get into it. What I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna stealth strip these sticks, and then I like to use vet tape in some of the smaller opposing parts. And what the vet tape's going to actually help in this situation is where these are such skinny steps on this stick, and you can kind of see it right there how thin they are. If you're a rubber boot wearer or a thin boot wearer, whatever, you really feel these steps in your feet. So we'll put a little vet tape on there, which will not become soft, it won't leave any sticky residue, and it'll actually quieten it down. So if it hits on another piece of metal, the idea is not to hear that little ting, because if you got a big buck that hears that, he's obviously gone. So obviously the first thing you're going to want to do is disassemble the stick completely, and then clean the surfaces up, make sure it's ready to adhere the stealth stripping, and the vet tape will stick to anything, so not really a big deal. But if it's cleaner, the better it's going to look, the better it's going to feel. Got a couple pieces of stealth strip, vet tape. I've got me a Phillips screwdriver. We'll see what that's for here in a little bit. Obviously a ratchet, a couple Allen head sockets, a couple Allen wrenches, because I like to actually feel how tight it is with my hand instead of allowing the drill just to kind of crank it down and me say that's good enough. So I want to be as safe as possible. Then I got a couple little sockets here, for the bolts on the back. Okay, so let's get these things apart. Disassembled, and when I disassemble these things, I try to keep the same hardware with the same pieces it came out of. Not that it probably makes a huge difference, but just peace of mind, because I knew it went in there good, I knew it was tight, I knew it fit correctly, right? Of course, we pulled the 2 standoffs off the stick, and when you are starting to stealth strip this, you're actually going to be covering these holes. So keep in mind, maybe even look at another stick, which one's the top and which one the bottom. The standoffs are in a little bit different place. The steps are in a little bit different place, and the Versa button obviously has a place. And since I've took off the cups, that makes it a little bit easier as far as so many holes, you're trying to figure out what goes where. And then do keep in mind when these steps come off, that in between the step and the stick itself is 2 little plastic washers. I don't know if you can see that, but they go on each side of the step. They're gray. The regular metal washer that goes on the outside is black to show you that it's metal. but make sure that those get back in there, because what that does is allow that step to rotate in and out, so you can close them down to pack them, right? And then obviously you're going to need, which I didn't mention a minute ago, a nice razor, X-Acto, something of the sort, because when you lay this on here, you're going to need to trim the edges. You can fold it over the edges, and I mean it'll help pretty good, but a lot of times in my experience that if it catches something, it's going to fold it away or whatnot. So I just cut it a little bit long and do a small like beveled edge on it, and then plus again, you know, it's going to keep those sides from, you know, tinging on things, and that's the whole idea anyway. Not only will it sound better and keep you a little more quiet, but it's actually going to look a whole lot better whenever we're done. But let's get that stealth strip going right here. So what we're going to do is, and I'm going to try to sit around here a little bit where you can kind of see. So I'm going to take this stealth strip, which I ordered it. I think it's about 24 bucks. And remember, when you order a stealth strip, these were cut for the hawks, okay? So whenever you order these things, make sure you get one for the front and the back. Therefore, you'll need about 8 instead of just 4 stealth strips like you would be thinking about 4 sticks. And this stuff's got a pretty good little backing. As you can see, I'm struggling over here a little. There we go. But what I like to do after I get this peeled off is kind of get my thumb in the center of these stealth strips. Once I get all the backing off of it, and we've tore some off onto it. I mean, that happens sometimes. It'll come off. I mean, that just shows you how good or how sticky that's going to be. So, I mean, you can't be mad about that. Okay, there we go. So what I'm going to do is standing up here, and as you can see, before I lay this, I'm going to get my thumb or my first finger kind of centered, and I'm going to look at this stick. That way I can see where it needs to set down, right? So I'm going to set one side down. Now these should be pretty close to length when you buy them for the exact stick. Alright, now kind of center that one, get it to stick, and then I'm going to grab this in with both hands, put my fingers on it, and kind of pull it, get a real hard stretch, and then I'm going to sit it down. That way it's super smooth, it's pulled on there tight, and it's just nice and flush all the way back and forth. Okay? And you're going to see these things look way, way cooler than they did before. You know, just make sure it's on there, make sure it's on there. And I like to run my hand up and down the edges and press the edges a few different times, just kind of make sure it's there. But I mean, you can see already where we're at. That thing looks way better than, you know, the normal old gray stuff that they got going. Alright, cool. So what I'm going to do now, obviously, is I like to take this little X-Acto, and I'll get right on the edge, and then I'll just peel it back to even it out. So here we go on that. Once you get it started, if you keep pressure, you can almost just run this whole edge almost every time. Now sometimes there's a little hiccup here and there. And like I said, you can fold it over the side, but it's not that huge of a deal for me. So I just trim it even on each side, and then I'll check the ends to make sure there's not a lot of overhang. I mean, it just makes it clean looking. It makes it easier to deal with as far as putting the sticks back together and not having to cut notches in things overhanging. And obviously be careful if you're using a razor blade. It's super sharp. Okay, getting a little meticulous there on those edges. But anyway, there it is, cut, clean, boom. Then next, what I'm going to do, or what I like to do, is I'll sit down here and I'll start finding where the holes are at, and this way you can kind of look at the bottom to double check where you're at, and then you'll just find the soft spot, and you're going to start making little incisions in this stuff. But I like to make a pretty good X and almost just kind of just waller it out a little bit. This is going to make it easier because it's kind of tough sometimes to get those bolts to go in there, and the threads and everything will pick up some of that steel strip and then try to run it down through it, and then you're hammering it and whatnot trying to get it to go through. And that's why I like the drill, because I can put those little Allen bits on there, and once you get a hole you can run it through there, and instead of you having to cut this up, mess it up, it'll run those threads down and it'll just be clean all the way through, and it'll actually be holding on a little bit better. So let me get that other steel strip on. I'll put the holes in it and then we'll come back to you. Alright, so we've got both sides steel stripped. Looks really good, really smooth. And then I took my blade here, my X-Acto knife, and poked holes right where things need to be. So I'll show you what I use the drill for mostly, or I like to do. Of course, don't get too excited with this. I get to the hole itself, and most of the time they won't slide in real good. So I just take and run them in slow. Though they will go through and pop through, but it just seems to help not tear up the steel strip as much. And then obviously don't forget your washer, your lock nut, and go from there. And then why I have the hand tools around is, again, I feel like if I can actually feel how tight something gets, then I know that it's tight, and I'm not relying on saying, well, the drill's tight enough or whatnot. And just kind of proceed to do the same thing with all of these. Particularly, I've noticed that it works really well with the steps when you put them back on. They're a little more tricky. Like I said before, make sure that the washers are right there on each side of that step. And make sure that you just slide it in there and get it about where it needs to go. And then this is why I keep the screwdriver close by, because what I'll actually do is use it to kind of give it a wiggle, and it'll line that up for me, and I kind of punch it through, and then there we go. That's a lot simpler than fighting with it or trying to stab it through or push it through, and then you pretty much argue with it. Because when you get that lined up with that screwdriver, you can sit it there, right there on top. Same thing, smaller bit. And you can see it looks like it drills in. But really it's just biting down to that steel strip and it's going through and spinning, right? So then it's in. Get your washer, get your lock nut on. I'm going to do the rest of these and then we'll get to vet tape. Alright, so I got the stick back together. Got the bottom pieces vet wrapped, so that's what it will look like whenever you're done. It's just a little bit softer on your foot right there, no sound. And then I'll show you right here. So vet tape, it's self-adhesion tape. It sticks to itself. Just take and just kind of guess, get enough on there for each piece I'm doing. And then obviously, I try to cover as much area as I can, so just hold it real tight, pin it down, and get you a nice tight spin going outward, and just get that stuff to wrapping around. There you go, boom. Sticks on there just like that. Looks better, softer on the foot, nicer. And then obviously you want your paracord loop as you're climbing, so you'll be able to hook your saddle, and you can get a little ting from that. And that's the idea, not only softness, but sound deadening is the main goal here. I like to get it real close, and that keeps that thing from just running around too. Boom. Two more little pieces here on the standoff, and you know, it might seem like I'm just messing around now at this point, but any little ting from any of these metal pieces, aluminum, whatever it's made out of, you know, will scare off a big mature buck. You know, contrary to belief, if that's not a sound of the woods, then they're not gonna like it. They will know. So we can get to watch me in a little real-time action here on these last few. It's not a real hard task. It's a little bit of time consuming, probably less than this when I'm shooting a video doing one of them, but if you've got all the tools sitting in front of you, it's worth the 30 bucks total, I believe is what I got in it. I mean, you can see that's a much better looking stick all the way around, and the vet tape's going to do good. It's still going to fold up into its body, and there we go. That's the finished product right there. Here's the sticks after I've just stacked them on top of each other. They got the straps, only 3 of them, which I did all 4, but I got this nice movable aider I made because obviously one less stick is less to carry, right? So 3 sticks, movable aider, you're still going to get as high as 4 most of the time. I just wrapped it with this night eyes, and I mean, you can see now, no clinging. You know, these can't bang against each other as easy. I'm sure you could still possibly get some kind of sound out of it, but that right there is a pretty nice little packable package right there. Even without those cups on there, I feel like it's less to mess with as far as having to trim them out and them getting stuck together and fighting them in the woods. So there it is, all stealth strip vet taped up.